All right, let's now cut across to Kyiv, where the Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar is reading out a statement. Let's listen in.
We supported the Turkish effort in 2022 to open up the Black Sea grain corridor. In September 2022, also, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal actually took up with us the concerns regarding the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant at that time. It was a matter on which we had been thereafter directly in touch with the Russians and then back to the Ukrainian side. Also been in touch with IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi. And at various other points of time, we had also taken public positions cautioning against the danger of escalation. Now, let me now come to today's discussion on this particular subject, because I would say in terms of the time which the Prime Minister and President Zelensky spent, most of it actually was in regard to the conflict. So here, the Prime Minister spoke about our position, which I have summed up for you, that there is not an era of war, that dialogue and diplomacy are key to the solution will not come out of the battlefield. He shared the widespread sentiment in the global south about the repercussions of this conflict for them. He spoke also about his discussions recently with President Putin in Moscow. The Prime Minister, if you remember, was there in July. He sought President Zelensky's assessment of both of the ground situation as well as the diplomatic scenario. President Zelensky spoke at some length on both issues. He also spoke about taking the Global Peace Summit in regard to Ukraine forward. And I would say, if I were to kind of sum up really what was a fairly long and detailed discussion, it revolved around to some extent the military situation, about on the medium-term concerns like food and energy, and most of all on conceivable pathways to peace and conflict resolution. I would say, I'm sure the Ukrainian side will do its own briefing, but in fairness, I would sort of sum up their position as saying that they clearly wanted a continued involvement of India with the Global Peace Summit. There was also a discussion about what could be effective ways of taking these discussions forward, not necessarily within the format of the summit. There are obviously multiple possibilities here and multiple views about those possibilities. So what I can say is that it was a very detailed, a very open, in many ways a very constructive discussion. And if there is any further development in that regard, we will obviously keep you all informed. With regard to other issues, I think the best that I would do, because we have a paucity of time, would be to refer you to the joint statement. Just again, I'm summing it up very succinctly. I'm not touching all points, but in the joint statement, I want to emphasize that the Prime Minister and the President reiterated the readiness to further cooperation in upholding principles of international law, including the UN Charter, such as respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of states. As I said, they spoke about the summit on peace in Ukraine. The last meeting was in June of 2024. In terms of our own positions, I think I read out for you that particular paragraph. I would say in addition to that, there are references in the joint statement to our bilateral cooperation, to trade, to commerce, to education. We signed 4 agreements today. One was in regard to community development projects in Ukraine. One was in regard to drug control standards and harmonization. One was on cultural exchange, and the 4th one was agriculture. Finally, let me just say that we have been, in the past, been providing humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. I think 17 consignments so far have been delivered. These are largely in the medical, on the medical side. And today we handed over the Bhishma. Let me have a look at that. Where is that? These are cubes which contain medical support equipment, which are very effective, very compact, very deployable in many ways. So these cubes with a total weight of 22 tons were handed over today, along with 10 gensets. So I think this would probably be a fair summary of today's discussions. I'm sure you will have some questions or thoughts. I'd be happy to answer them.
We open the floor now, and please do introduce yourself before you ask the question. So let's start there. Rishikesh.
Hi sir, Rishikesh from Press Trust of India. So we have seen in the past that Ukraine side has made a very strong statement on the issue of India's import, especially on gas, energy or coal. So when today Prime Minister meets with President Zelensky, did President urge India to curb its imports from Russia?
Okay. Can I take a few, because I'd like to cover as many people as possible. So Vishnu.
Sir, Vishnu Shok from NDTV. Were there any specific proposals made by us, by India, to Ukraine in terms of a possible immediate path towards ending the conflict?
So question is specific proposals and immediate path.
Specific
proposals and the adjectives in question are specific proposal and immediate path.
Yes, sir.
Right, got it.
You can take one more question.
Yeah, sure, I'll take 3.
Media. I have 2 questions. The first question is, India didn't position itself as a negotiator between Ukraine and Russia. However, Bloomberg reports that your side is willing to deliver some message from Russian side to Ukrainian. Was there any specific message today from Putin to Volodymyr Zelensky? And the second question, what is the stance of the India on Chinese peace plan? Because India respects Ukrainian territorial integrity, and it didn't include it in Chinese peace plan.
Can I go with these 3 answers?
Sure.
Okay. So the first question, did the issue of India's energy trade with Russia come up? Yes, it did. I wouldn't say at great length, but what we did was to explain to the Ukrainian side what was the energy market scenario. The fact that many energy producers are sanctioned, making the market potentially very tight, and why actually today there is a compulsion, in fact not just a compulsion, why it is in the interest of the international economy as a whole that oil prices remain reasonable and stable. On Vishnu, your question, in a way, they kind of feed into each other. Look, I would put it this way. clearly, we've been having our own thinking and discussions with many other countries. Also, because the Prime Minister was recently in Moscow, there were detailed discussions there, which we have been quite public about. So he shared, I think, many of the thoughts and the substance of these discussions. I wouldn't necessarily characterize it in the way in which you said Bloomberg had described it. But in turn, I think we heard from President Zelensky at some length what his own views were, about these issues, but what his own views were about the subject as a whole. I mean, not necessarily to anything which we may have told him, we may have heard in Moscow. So it was a very back and forth discussion. To my mind, there was certainly, I'm sure that there was information which we, obtained here, and I'm sure we also perhaps may have brought up points or flagged issues which may or may not have been people would have been cognizant of here. The way we ended was that at the end of the discussion, I think there was a sense that this is a very complex issue. I mean, yes, certainly we have this one particular format, the peace in Ukraine format. But as I said, it is the view not just of India, but certainly of India as well, that there are, there could be multiple ways of approaching this issue. Now, you asked me for one of those examples, and I'm not comparing here. I'm just responding to your particular question. Regarding, whatever China may have proposed, I think it's not for us to respond. I think it is for the parties concerned to respond. So I would suggest you direct that question at the Ukrainian government.
Can we have a question here? Rishabh, please.
Minister, good afternoon. Rishabh from Times Now. Sir, you spoke about Ukrainians asking us to be part of the Ukraine Peace Summit that last happened in Switzerland. Has there been any proposal from Ukraine to India to try and convince Russia to be on that table? Because Russia last time was not part of the Peace Summit in Switzerland. So has there been any talks from Ukrainian side that India should try and get Russia also on the table?
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.